A 4-month prison sentence handed to ex-Trump advisor Steve Bannon was shorter than the 6 months prosecutors were aiming for. As lawmakers have struggled for years to secure participation with Trump allies in their investigations, the sentence was a warning shot to other reluctant witnesses as the House January 6 probe could be entering its final months. The ruling also came just hours before the Select Committee unveiled a subpoena from former President Donald Trump. His lawyers have 14 days to appeal, and if they don't, Bannon must make arrangements to surrender voluntarily by November 15. Nichols said Bannon showed no remorse for his actions. Nichols said Bannon failed to show responsibility for his behavior, a factor that ultimately led the judge to impose a harsher sentence. He has expressed no remorse for his actions, Nichols said during the trial, and the judge emphasized that Bannon had not shown that he would comply with the subpoenas. Other factors also point to a significant penalty, the judge said. There was problems, the judge said, with Bannon's position that Trump was asserting executive privilege that prevented Bannon from testifying or turning over documents. Bannon was also a private citizen who hadn't been in government for years, Nichols said. He said it was possible some of the information requested was privileged, the judge noted. But Bannon was less likely to have privileged documents than others. Bannon's failure to turn over any documents to the committee or even to compile a record of privileges also weighed on him, the judge said, and Nichols pressed his attorneys on the issue several times during the hearing. The judge also concluded that Mr. Bannon appears to be of perhaps some very small risk of recidivism, at least when it comes to subpoenas. There were factors in Bannon's favor, the judge said before handing down the verdict. The subpoena to Bannon raised potential legal issues, the judge said, because it was from someone who had spoken to the president. Mr. Bannon did not completely ignore the fact that he had received a subpoena, Nichols said, indicating Bannon's appointment of an attorney associated with the committee. That lawmakers acted quickly to contempt Bannon, rather than filing a civil suit to enforce the subpoena, was also in his favor, the judge said. Bannon had complied with the terms of the pre-trial parole and trial in Nichols' courtroom. Prosecutor urged judge to treat Bannon like every other citizen. When he pleaded for a 6-month sentence, U.S. Attorney J.P. Cooney to Nichols that the government only required Bannon to be treated like every other citizen. Citizens show up every day to obey grand jury subpoenas, and those citizens put themselves in harm's way to cooperate, said Cooney. This man, the defendant, a man of means, a public figure, suffered no such threats for testifying, the prosecutor argued, adding Bannon never lifted a finger to locate a related document or speak to the committee. Bannon thumbed his nose at Congress, said Cooney, adding that the defendant is not above the law. Bannon attorney defends conduct. Mr. Bannon should make no apology. When he pleaded for leniency, Bannon's attorney, David Schoen, dismissed the idea that a lack of remorse warranted a harsher sentence. Mr. Bannon should make no apology, Schoen said when he claimed prosecutors violated the Constitution. There is nothing here to deter. There is nothing here to punish. Schoen's impassioned remarks lasted more than half an hour, and his voice sometimes grew louder. He referred extensively to James Madison, who appeared to be reading from a paperback edition of the Federalist Papers, and described the government's approach to the case as tyranny. He said the way Bannon approached the subpoena by prioritizing concerns about executive privilege was the kind of conduct we should encourage in this country. He accused the DOJ of trying to make an example out of Mr. Bannon. Bannon, who didn't wear a suit for the trial but instead wore dark trousers and an olive barn coat, kept a stoic face during Friday's trial. He grinned, however, when the judge announced that he would not have to serve his sentence until the appeal was heard. This story was updated after Bannon's conviction. CNN's Caitlin Palance contributed to this report.